in my mind.
Yeah.
For the Canucks here, I think the big thing here, Sean, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit about Jake Virtanen. I have a bit of a different theory. I think maybe there was a time when the Canucks were like, you know what, I want Jake Virtanen in this lineup, and I think we need to have him. I think if it has been a story of this camp, I think that ship is sailing. I think that the way Travis Green has been talking, I think he's gotten to the point of, I'm tired of this. I've given him as many messages as I possibly can. If he doesn't want this, he doesn't want this. If a Zach McEwen and even a Michael Furland are doing better, I've got to roll with them. I think I'm starting to sense, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm starting to sense the Jake Virtanen ship is sailing.
Oh, you're saying it in a completely, what I was trying to say it just in a completely different way. All things equal, if Jake Virtanen's playing at his top of his game, the Canucks are better with him in the lineup, and they know that. The problem is that he struggles to do that. Yeah. And he struggles with consistency, and he struggles with getting the mental game right and making the correct decisions in the game and not becoming a liability. Before the pause, Zach McEwen was playing on the third line more than Jake Virtanen was, and now you throw in Michael Furland and a healthy Sutter. I think it's gonna be really tough for him to get in the lineup, because a healthy Michael Furland is a game-changing player for the Canucks. They could have a third line of Antoine Roussel, Adam Gaudette, and Michael Furland. That is a line that can dominate down low and dominate physically and create offense for Adam Gaudette's one hell of a shot. Because both Furland and Roussel are very good on the forecheck, working the cycle and getting the puck out to the slot for shots. I do think that it's time. I think all things equal right now, Michael Furland is the right winger on that third line, and I think they're going to go with Brandon Sutter on the right wing on the fourth line to make sure that they've got enough penalty killers so that they're not overworking Bo Horvat and JT Miller. And you've got the veteran consistency and trust that's on that fourth line for Travis Green. And that's the key word right there, is trust. Jake Virtanen does not have the trust of the coaching staff right now.
Yeah, I'm with Kevin. I think that patience is running pretty thin there between the organization and Jake Virtanen, and the off-ice issues there that popped up a few weeks ago have certainly not helped his cause. So he better find it here fast, or they might be parked in the press box for the duration here.
But I think one of the big stories that is here, and it quote unquote big, but it's Ole Hulevy making the bubble roster over players like Guillaume Brisebois and Ashton Sautner, who have NHL games played and have been ahead of him on the depth chart for the past couple, like even going into this past season. I think that says a lot. I think he has looked good in the camp, and it's starting to look like he can become an NHL player, which would be huge for the Canucks going forward. He's never going to live up to that draft position, but it's time to move on from that and just get the best out of him. And if he can be a 4-5 defenseman, maybe even a 3, that's going to be fantastic for the Canucks going forward. And the fact that they chose him over those two players who have been called up in front of instead of him before is huge.
Yeah, I think another thing is that having him up with the club and experiencing playoff hockey and it just being around that atmosphere, I think would be very beneficial for him in his development too.
Yep.
But yeah, in terms of the only other one I was really it made me question is them only going with 3 goalies in the bubble, and not bring Mikey DiPietro along. That's the only thing I'm questioning. But when you look at who they're bringing, the forwards were basically set from day one of camp. Cole Lind was not going to make the bubble roster. And yeah, it just was. Colin was not going to make the bubble roster because of that. So you look at who they're bringing. They've got as their spares if they go with the lineup I suggested. They've got Louis Eriksson, who can slide into Brandon Sutter's spot, can slide into a matchup role with Bo Horvat as he's played in the past. And then you've got Zach McEwen, who's probably your number one, your quote-unquote 13th forward, who can slide into a third-line role, a second-line role, even on a fourth line. And then you've got Josh Bailey, Justin Bailey, who's got speed to burn, and Tyler Graovac, who's a center, and you need depth down the middle in the playoffs. So I thought that those were going to be the players they brought, and then they're only bringing 30 players, so there was one more spot. I don't know if there's something else going on, but I don't see a major problem with who they're bringing.
Back to the Flames quickly. Devin, Heidi, was there anyone that you were surprised was or was not on their team?
No, not really. I'm kind of wondering the choice of bringing Valimaki. I think just as long as he doesn't play, he won't burn that stipulation or whatever that he could not be protected in the expansion draft. I think they just want him around the team to kind of just watch the systems and get to know some of the guys. I'm not really sure what that choice was, but other than that, there's nothing in there that's really jumping out.
Yeah, Valimaki, once again, I think it's very much just being around the guys and making sure that he understands what playoff hockey is about. I mean, he did play. He has played a couple games, playoffs, but I think that he better be playing that exhibition game, and that's all I got to say. He to showcase whether or not he can play and will play. And I don't doubt True Living or Jeff Ward won't do that because that'll be completely moronic. But I'm not surprised with any of the roster going up to Edmonton. But I do want to make a point in what Sean was confused about why they only took 3 goalies. When you have a self-proclaimed number one, well, not self-proclaimed, but he's a number one goalie. You only need 3 goalies. The only reason why Louis Domingue's there is if Demko gets sick or if Markstrom gets sick. And say, for instance, Markstrom gets sick, I would not be surprised if Domingue is the next one up instead of Demko. Just because of how he played down in Tampa Bay when Vasilevsky got injured. He played 20 games and he crushed it. So I just feel like that would be the savvy move, just because the veteran and he's been here before Demko, and Demko, he once again just being here and experiencing it all, and I think is beneficial for him too.
Man, Domingue going in before Demko, if that's the case, would be an absolute nightmare publicity media in Vancouver. That would be massive shit show. It'd be crazy.
But what's in the Vancouver media?
It doesn't matter about the media. You got to win games. Screw the fucking media and whatever they're going to do and say. You got to make the right decision for your team for the win, period.
I think you guys are both right. It would be a gong show if that were the case, if it got to that point. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all that Domingue plays instead of Demko. I'm not sure where the organization's at. I'm sure, they have to be a little bit nervous about how the stretch of games prior to the pause went with Demko being the number one. He really did struggle.
And
he was okay. Like, I wouldn't say he struggled horribly. He was okay, and it was his first. It was his first go at it, and I still think they're very high on him. And it's Demko over Domingue 99 times out of 100. It's that I do think that Domingue
put it at 85%.
A borderline NHL goaltender. He looked good behind a just juggernaut of a Tampa Bay team. That's what it was.
Like, let's not pretend Louis Domingue's this God's gift to backup goaltending here. But
before we go on, we've got some breaking news.
Oh, breaking news!
You have a breaking news Twitter?
Where's the stinger? You need to.
It's tough when I'm doing Facebook Live because I have, if I switch things around, I lose the camera here, and I think I've lost the camera already on Facebook Live. So I'll just do it as my own voice.
An absolute gong show and talking with
breaking news,
the best rumors and everything. No, we're going to Arizona, folks. John Chyka is out as GM of the Arizona Coyotes.
Yes.
Woo.
Yeah, kind of a bit of an odd time to not have your general manager anymore going into the most important stretch of games in the season, but don't know what. Something bizarre is happening.
Well, I knew something was up when the owners were having meetings with Taylor Hall without John Chyka. So once that happened, I was like, woo, something's up. And yeah, it looks like Steve Sullivan is the interim GM for all this, and Chyka is out.
Well, that's that is interesting. That's interesting to me. Like that Arizona team, it's just they're so boring. I'm sorry if there's an Arizona fan, but they are. They're boring. Like there's not a lot of excitement to them. They had that one Western Conference run a few years ago against the LA Kings, but it's boring, and I think that they need, they went so young and analytical, and I don't think Taylor Hall. I think part of the problem why Taylor Hall is struggling there is I think it's not only is it the literal desert, it's a symbolic desert that he can't be creative there. And I'm not saying that's only Chyka. I think there's probably some other factors there, but they need some life in that organization. So, and yeah, I'm not too surprised.
I mean, he was 26 years old when they made him GM. Like, can you imagine being I know I wouldn't be able to GM a team when I was 26 years old. Like, you're still figuring out life then. Like, that's...
I could barely tie my shoes at 26, so let alone general manager a team.
I'm surprised by it. I thought that he was yes, he was young when he started. He was there for 4 years. I believe it was 2016 he got hired on. And he did make some good moves. John Morrison pickup I thought was fantastic. Getting Phil Kessel, another big one, and Taylor Hall. I mean, to me, there's obviously something below the water there or behind the scenes that has happened. But I just that sounds political to me more so than
possible
than what he's actually produced.
Well, there was we still haven't heard anything what's going to happen. But the Arizona Coyotes were under investigation by the NHL for scouting, doing scouting incorrectly and breaking rules with scouting CHL players, asking them to do physical testing during the season, which is against the rules and everything. So we haven't heard what exactly is come from that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a big part of why he was terminated. It wasn't that he was let go; he was terminated. So they're not on the hook for the rest of his contract. But I also looked at the terminology of all the reports is John Chyka terminated his contract. So I think this is a parting of the ways, and this. because I think he saw the writing on the wall and just wants to go off and do something different. So, because he also has his hockey analytics company as well, run with his sister.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference in philosophy there, and maybe ownership was starting to meddle a little more than they were in the past, and they couldn't come to some kind of agreement, so he said, "Screw it." That's kind of how it feels to me.
Yeah, but I can't blame ownership. I mean, when you have the same amount of crowds that we're about to see through the NHL Hub City playoffs here, you got to wonder a little bit about what's going on. You got to meddle a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, I just think it's a combination of that and the scouting, because the Vancouver has all the talk about who you can praise and blame for scouting and all that, but the buck stops at the GM, and if your scouts are doing that under your nose, you're not doing a good enough job controlling your employees. And if they're doing it under your guidance and recommendation, then you're breaking significant rules that could come back to significantly hurt the franchise going forwards.